Hey everybody, welcome to Wednesday Q&A. I am coming to you live from my home still during the shutdown here in St. Louis. Sounds like they are talking about getting up and open again, maybe in another couple weeks. It sounds like what I heard this morning on the radio was around May 18th, and with lots of precautions and rules and industries as far as who's going to get to go be live and who's not. So, all right, I was just checking to make sure everything was live on Facebook. I'm going to keep that open so I can see questions if I need to. So just reaching out this week because I didn't come on live last week. There wasn't a lot of changes last week, so they are still working on doing some guidance on all of the legislation that is out there. Things are still open as far as banks accepting applications for the payroll protection loans, and I saw that the EIDL loan application process is back open. So if you were not in the first round of EIDLs, which opened sometime in March and shut down right around the same time that the first round of PPP funding got shut down, you will now be able to go in and put in an application for that EIDL. And as a reminder, the EIDL is set up for to get through this time. It's an emergency disaster loan, essentially, and the entire country is considered a disaster area. Thanks to COVID-19 right now. So what will happen is you will be able to go in, and that is the portion where they are giving $1,000 per employee, up to 10 employees as a grant. And that will allow you to, essentially they will pre-fund the grant and then come in later and you will apply for the EIDL loan, which is a 30-year loan that has, I believe it's a 3.75 interest rate and with no payments due for the first 12 months. So you will be able to go in and get more money for operations. It is not earmarked specifically for payroll, so you can actually get some money to continue paying things relating to your vendors, your suppliers, your if you've got some debt within your entity already, those types of things. The grant portion, the up to $10,000 that they pre-fund, that if you got the payroll protection, the paycheck protection loan, that will negate some of that amount to be forgiven. So what's happening there is you want to go in, you go to sba.gov, you put in the application. It's a pretty short form. They're asking for ownership information, that you're certifying things that allow you to be entitled to this loan, and kind of gives you some direction on what it can be used for. You'll put in some bank information so that you can go ahead and get the money directly deposited into your bank account. But here's the catch. What's happening is, people started applying for these loans back in March. They're on a first come, first served basis. What initially was happening when they were sort of caught up was that you were getting the funding in your account, and within 24 hours of that money coming in, you were getting an email from the SBA saying, please log into your account, set up a login, because when you first apply, you're not setting up any type of login. So you're going to go in, you're going to set up an account, and at that point, we will continue processing the EIDL loan. What in reality, as they got behind, the money was hitting people's accounts and is currently still hitting people's accounts with no information. You get no email notification, you get nothing except that it came into your bank account. So the money comes in, you get no notification, and they are behind the scenes processing your loan application, and that while there's no personal guarantee, they are running your credit. And I don't know if that means that they are defining the amounts based on credit history, if they're running the credit history for the business or for the individuals. So those types of things are happening behind the scenes, and you're not getting any notification. So I just was on the phone with a client who said they called them and said, hey, what's the status? So, really you need your application number, which was assigned at the time that you file for the EIDL. And it sounds like they're answering the phone. So I don't have that information as far as the phone number, but I'm thinking I'm going to pick up the phone and see if I can get some information for some of my clients that have received the grant money and haven't received any additional notification. On the PPP side, funds are coming in, and the bigger banks, I would say, dropped the ball. They dropped the ball pretty hard. So, and some local banks dropped the ball too. So your regional banks and your local banks probably put through the most as far as PPP funding. Or if you were at a larger bank and had a relationship with a banker who could walk that process through their system and get you into the SBA system, then you had success there. So I did have some clients that got funded with US Bank. I had some clients with Commerce Bank that were essentially, left out in the cold. They weren't even, it wasn't even addressed. So, I mean, it's been across the board as far as the funding happening in the process. Every bank had its own process, so that it's still open. They have not said they have run out of funds. We don't know if that's going to be another week, another 2 weeks, but my feeling is there's not going to be another round. So if you still think you're in a position where you need to get some PPP money, you need to get those applications in and to a bank soon. And if you're having the run around with your bank that you've been with, that you already have an account with, go somewhere else. Go somewhere else. So this is the make or break for banks right now. The ones that have supported their customers and gotten them funding and are helping see them through this very difficult time are the ones that are going to succeed. The ones that have dropped the ball or very obviously were prioritizing clients based on, revenues or bank balance, or putting caveats on, you must have a loan with us already. You must have a credit card with us. You must have something. The system is really, that wasn't what it was designed for. So shame on them. But what really needs to happen now is get those applications in. I would say get them in this week or assume you're not going to get it. So there's videos that I've done in the past few weeks that kind of explain that calculation process. I believe it was probably week 2, maybe, might have been week 3, where I have the calculation of what you need to provide to the bank and how to calculate your payroll costs to get that PPP. But the bigger thing now is, hey, I'm using the money. So you need to make sure that you are keeping track of how you're spending the money. Not that specific money, but how when you are spending money that qualifies for the forgiveness. So what you're looking at are your payroll costs. You want to keep those reports handy. You're going to keep them in a separate file, you're going to keep a separate PDF, you're going to create a file that says PPP, and you're going to put anything that you think is potentially forgivable within that file. So you're going to have your payroll costs, you're going to have your health insurance costs, you're going to have your rent, you're going to have your utilities including telephone, internet, trash pickup, communications, things like that. So, make sure you're just putting those in a separate file. If you are making a loan or like a payment on a mortgage for your business, you own a property, then you're going to get the interest portion. So make sure you have either an amortization schedule, or if you pay your note directly to the bank, that you have some sort of a statement that shows how much is interest versus how much is principal, because that's how it will be forgiven. Payroll costs, 75%. 25% can be the other stuff, the rent, the utilities, the interest, mortgage interest, that type of thing. They're not looking at including any type of mortgage interest for self-employed people that use their home. So there's no place for that. So essentially for self-employed persons who got the PPP, you're going to have your payroll costs be the amount that was on your 2019 Schedule C that you would have filed, or if it was a K-1, it would be your self-employment income that was listed on your K-1. And what that does is you are going to have the amount that you started with. It was essentially divided by 12, multiplied by 2.5. That portion is going to be automatically forgiven. From all my understanding is that you are not going to have to worry about paying that piece back. But if you did get the EIDL loan and you got the grant piece of it ahead of time, then that will come out off of how much is actually going to be able to be forgiven. Forgiveness currently 8 weeks from the date was funded. So not the date you signed the paperwork, not the date the bank sent you the paperwork and said, hey, we need this back. It is going to be the date that the money actually came into your bank account. That is the funding date. And then 8 weeks, not 2 months, it is 56 days essentially. It are the expenses that incurred during those 8 weeks, those 56 days. So you know what, we're not going to do anything fancy for our clients. We are going to set up an Excel spreadsheet. We are going to keep track of, how much 75% of the loan is and apply payroll costs against that. So we can kind of see where we're at as we're getting closer to that 8-week deadline. So figure out what your 56 days is. When is that going to end? And make sure that you are getting those expenses paid within that window if you want it forgiven. The guidance that came out recently on the PPP, so there's a lot of concern that there was some guidance that came out that essentially said, hey, if you don't need this money, you have this window that you could give it back. And what we mean by you don't need it is that you don't think you've been impacted. You don't have other sources of income. That's really, in my opinion, that, people were like, well, I have some money in savings. So should I really take this money? Should I really get the PPP? Do I really need it? And my answer is yes, you're probably going to need it. And just because you were a business that was able to save some money and you're going to need that money too before we're done with this, because the PPP is only covering 2 months of payroll, 8 weeks. And that 8 weeks, as we've just seen, since we've been on shutdown essentially for 6-7 weeks, that time goes fast. And that money is going to go fast. And so you are going to be dipping into that savings account sooner than you like in order to maintain operations. So does that mean you shouldn't take the PPP money, or should you give the money back? They've extended that date to give the money back to May 14th. No, I think small businesses that are taking reasonable amounts of money to support their payroll and to keep people employed, to keep their people employed with benefits. I mean, that's the big piece, because we are going to find that we are going to get hit hard. All these people that go on unemployment are going to lose their benefits. And what is going to happen, I don't know if anybody's been out to the marketplace, but the majority of the time, to get a decent plan, if you make any money, you're paying a lot of money for bad insurance. Even the decent plans are not good. They're not as good as they were before the Obamacare came about. So what's going to happen, these people are going to flood the marketplace. They're going to, hopefully, when this is all said and done, they're going to get some jobs back, but they're going to end up being in a position that they either, got the insurance dirt cheap with the premium care credit, and then they owe it all back at tax time, or they're going to find that, hey, we can't afford to do this at all right now. And there's such a lag time, so by the time you apply, so that's the 1st of next month. So June 1st, maybe I'll have insurance, maybe I won't. It's just going to get ugly. It's going to get ugly. Just opening up the businesses on May 18th in the St. Louis area or anywhere in the country is not going to bring back the revenue levels that were in place prior to the shutdown. We're already looking at a downturn. And now we're going to be looking at so the market crashed. And so the market's not in a great position. The economy, has all but stopped. And we're going to slowly bring businesses back up to allowing them to have the same level of business, the same level of customers, same level of employees. We're going to gradually bring that back. This is going to take a long time to recover from. So don't worry about the fact that you took the PPP loan, because you're going to need it. You're going to need your savings account. The guidance that the Treasury put out is that, yep, the SBA is going to be looking at people that took the PPP loans, but if you got $2 million or more, those are the people they will be focusing on. So for me and for most of my clients, I mean, if you got $2 million in PPP costs, that means that you had, let's see, do some math. You have around $700,000 to $800,000 a month in payroll. That doesn't affect any clients that I have. But I mean, it may affect some. I mean, it's going to affect people who are in much bigger accounting firms than what I run. But really, we're looking at, my gut had said, and I think I had told at least one client, yeah, they're not going to spend any time or energy looking at the people that got $500,000 or less in PPP funds. They're going to be looking at the people who got millions, because they're going to be saying, wow, you know, you got millions, which means you have a huge payroll. Do you need it? Well, some industries absolutely will need it. Industries are hit so hard, and every single industry is different. So don't feel bad about taking the money, but put it to good use. Don't think you're going to take the PPP money and start paying off debt, or that you're going to, restructure that, or that you're going to give giant bonuses to the ownership. You need to do what it was designed for, which is to re-employ your people, keep people and their benefits in place. There are issues there. People are making some good money on unemployment right now. An extra $600 every single week. I mean, that's a good income. So let's just do that times a month. Oops. So you got $2,400 extra, or let's just make 600 divided by 40. So that's assuming you're making $15 an hour. Most people, well, it depends. If you're making minimum wage, you're making just under $10. And some people could be making much more. They could be making $30 an hour and are on unemployment. But this $600 a week is bringing $2,400 a month extra into everyone's household. That is definitely your mortgage payment. That's, your car payment. That is keeping groceries on your table. But what's happening is PPP money's flooding in. Businesses are saying, okay, you need to come back to work. Yeah, but I'm getting an extra $600. Well, the true answer to that is, if you're invited back to your job and you decline it, you are no longer on unemployment, because you've been given a job and you turned it down. So you quit. And a quit does not allow you to get unemployment, and employers are allowed to say, you know what, we're going to report that to the state and your unemployment will stop. So really, I'm telling my employers, you need to be hard-nosed about it. One, unemployment runs out. They're going to wait till unemployment runs out, and they're going to come back to you and say, hey, I want my job back now. Too late. Find someone else to do that job for you. Because if someone is saying that they want to make more on unemployment doing nothing than working a job, then they're probably not the kind of worker you want anyway. Just saying. I'm going to stop and see if anybody has given me any questions yet. Don't see anything. So if you have any, you're watching this, you have any questions, just let me know. A couple of things other things that have come up relating to unemployment that I have been asked, or scenarios that have come to my attention. So self-employed people are able to get unemployment, and unemployment is an opt-in weekly situation. You don't automatically just stay on unemployment. You report every week how many hours you worked and at what rate. So for self-employed people, I am suggesting that if they got some money in, that they are kind of taking that money, dividing it by how many hours they worked, and that's what they received. So if they got $400 and they did, 10 hours worth of work, okay, they got paid 10 hours of $40 an hour, and they report that, and then the unemployment amount that's actually calculated to give to them may change. So you get 400 in a week, you may not get unemployment that week. That doesn't mean that you won't get it the next week. So it's an opt-in every week situation. And so the self-employed people are going to have to report their income based on what revenues are coming in during that time period. And you need to be honest about it, because this system absolutely at some point will be audited, reviewed. It's not going to go on forever. And they absolutely want people to be honest with how much they're bringing in. So it is based on hours that you worked, not the hours you got paid for anybody who is actually employed. So maybe you're employed part-time, maybe your employer cut you back to part-time, and so you're working partial hours. You're reporting those hours that you worked that week, not the hours you got paid. So even if it was a pay week, you got payday, you're just reporting what you worked in that week. So one situation came up where someone got denied on unemployment, filled it out incorrectly, had some issues there. And so suddenly they weren't working, so they weren't getting much of a paycheck, and they couldn't get their unemployment. And suddenly funds are running out for them in their household. So what we decided to do was essentially pay them some vacation. Let's pay out some of their paid time off that they've accrued or that they had from the beginning of the year to just get some money into their account. Well, paid time off is not for hours that you worked. So that did not have to be reported in that week that got paid. So that's an okay situation. If you you kind of have a side gig going on where you had a job, full-time job, you got laid off from that, but you also maybe have a side gig that you get some money from as well. If some people applied for unemployment based on that job, they didn't apply for it based on being self-employed. So I think that money is probably reportable. I have not looked on the websites lately, but I would suggest that you translate that money into hourly, what the hourly wage would be, report it in the week that you got it, or as if they were hours worked that week, and just let the chips fall where they may as far as how much they give you in unemployment that week. I don't think you need to reinvent the wheel. I don't think you need to make a big federal case out of it. I think you need to do the best you can. If it's a sizable amount of money, yeah, you're reporting it and you're not going to get unemployment for that week. You can't double dip. You can't get both. You can't. So that's my opinion. The unemployment, like I said, is going to run out. There is an extension period for the pandemic unemployment that allows that once I think it's either 11 or 13 weeks initially, once that's over, you're able to extend it. I hope we're not extending things like that. Again, if you're offered your job back, and guess what? You better be taking it. Some employers are going to be nice and be like, yeah, they're making more money on unemployment. It's not affecting my account. Let me just, let them do that. Yeah, for me, I'm sorry, but everybody should want to be working and not getting something for nothing. If you're in a situation where you call back to work and you are worried about the safety, maybe you're worried about your health, you're worried about bringing something home to your kids, you're worried, at some point, you are going to have to make a decision to be employed or not be employed. And that not being employed involves quitting your job, then you don't qualify for unemployment benefits anymore. At some point, if you were working before and you're choosing to stay home now because you're afraid, that is not on the employer. It's not on the employer. That's your choice. And the employer should not have benefits applied against them because you're choosing to not come back into an environment that is reasonably safe. At this point, we've heard it, the curve is flattened. Yes, there's still risk. Yes, there's still, everybody needs to be taking precautions, and let's keep washing our hands, because apparently we weren't washing our hands in February, but we need to make sure that if you're making that decision to not go to work, even though you have a job, you need to understand that there's repercussions. And a lot of that could be, right now when you're furloughed, they're paying for your benefits. You don't come back, your benefits are gone. They don't have to keep paying them. You can pay them, and you can pay them at full price. So that's kind of my soapbox. My 2 cents on that is, boy, unless if you were working somewhere and you were laid off, take that job if they offer it. And once you get there, you need to do what you can to make that business stay in business so you keep a job, because everybody's going to be hurting now. Everybody's going to be really scratching and scraping for every sale. We've lost a window of opportunity. And for some people, they've lost a window in their busiest season of the year. And maybe they don't have another busy season until the holidays start to approach. Maybe they're in retail. The restaurants are going to be so slow coming back because people are going to be afraid, and the capacity in a restaurant is going to be reduced because they have to leave enough space between tables and families. And that industry is already a really difficult industry to make a profit in. It really is. I mean, you have to have a successful business. So it's really hard to pay overhead on a building that you don't get to use to its capacity. So just keep in mind that it's going to be slow going. So other questions, actually, I had a client today mentioned to me that there's programs out there. They're saying, okay, I can give you an extension where you don't have to make a payment. SBA has, if you already have an SBA loan, they've suspended payments for 6 months. They're out there, mortgage companies saying, hey, we can, put you on forbearance. And what that means is you don't have to make payments for a while. Well, she found out that it detrimentally hurts your credit, where you will not be able to refinance your home for a good 12 months. So my bigger recommendation for people is that, if your mortgage is something you cannot afford right now, find out if there are ways, to skip a month. Don't put it on forbearance, or can you refinance? Can you refinance to a lower interest rate to reduce your interest? Could you refinance if you have equity in your home? Pull that equity out, use that equity to pay off some debt that then doesn't have to come out of your pocket every month. There's some options there, but it sounds like the forbearance is a lot of fine print that you do not want to get in the middle of. I believe she's saying that she's needing to go back and reverse that forbearance so that they can get back in control of their mortgage. And so it's unfortunate that, a institution would not make that really clear, because I think that's a little bit like preying on people who don't know what it means to do those things. And that's bad business. I would suggest at this point, as soon as possible, get it reversed, change mortgage companies. You need to refinance to somebody else at this point. So just words of caution. There are lots of opportunities out there to defer things and to reduce things, and maybe they'll give you a little bit off. Maybe they'll reduce an interest rate on a credit card. Maybe they will waive late fees. There's a lot of things that you have to pay attention, and you have to talk to a person. I would suggest, just going online and filling it out and saying, yeah, do this for me. You want to make sure you totally understand the fine points of what's happening, because you don't want it to cost you more in the end. If you want to ask the question, hey, can you reduce my interest rate? What will you reduce it to, and for how long? And what will it go back up to when you go back up to? Is it going to raise my interest rate? So if I was at 14% interest on a credit card, you're going to reduce it to 8%. But when you put it back onto its regular terms, it's going to 25. Not sure it's worth it. Not sure it's worth it. So you just have to ask the questions you need to get with a person. Unfortunately, super hard to do. Customer service places are overrun because everybody is trying to answer calls, and they're not all staffed at the normal levels of a typical call center. You may have people working from home. I think I was on a call with someone. I don't know. I had somebody, checking employment or something. And I definitely could hear kids in the background. So, her calls are being routed to her house. She's working for whatever, mortgage company or credit card. I don't even know who it was. And sure enough, she's got a headset. She's working from her laptop. So just like we all are. And so you have to be patient, and you have to do a little bit of research to kind of get to the point of knowing where you can make some changes. So let me see if no questions. Yay. Okay. So the only other things that I wanted to review are things like you need to go through, if you're looking 6 months out, go through how you're spending your money, personal, and if you have a business, on your business, how am I spending the money? Meaning what subscriptions are coming through? Do am I paying for some software I'm not really using? Am I paying for a magazine subscription and I get the magazine and I just toss it because it's just clutter? Go through your credit card statements, your debit card statements, your anything that's automatically withdrawn from your bank account, and figure out, is this something I need during the next 6 months? 6 months. So we're sitting here in May, and I would say you're going to go through the end of the year, because as soon as we get to that 6-month mark, it's Christmas time, and we're all going to be wanting to do something for our families or for the holidays, and that puts another drain on your cash. And so you're going to go through all of those things, find the things that are not essential to you in the next 6 months, and be rough. Do you need to keep paying for Spotify right now when there's a free version? Do you need Netflix when you also have Hulu? Do you need, you can make some choices, and it doesn't sound like it's a lot of money, but if you make enough of those choices, you can start to save hundreds of dollars, in the year. And what you're going to do with that money is you're going to start socking it away. You're going to start put it into a savings account. Savings accounts don't make much right now. They don't have a lot of interest on them. But you need to sock it away somewhere, because we don't know how long it's going to last. And there's going to be times when you need to dip into that money in order to supplement the mortgage payment or the rent or the car payment. Look at everything that you are spending your money on and figure out if it's essential. And then when you are making decisions on what to spend money on, you need to look at things very carefully on, do I need this right now? We're actually in the middle of finishing up a kitchen renovation. I've never had my kitchen renovated. I'm so excited. I love it. I love everything about it. Everything's new. It's fresh floor. I think the stove is coming tomorrow, and that's the last of the new appliances going in. And is this something we needed right now? I will say, one, we've never had our kitchen remodeled. We've been in our house for 24 years. And it's an old house. It was built in 1951. Last remodel was sometimes in the 70s. And we're doing it, my husband's doing it. And so we're not paying, other than for the materials, we are not spending any money. Nobody's coming into our home to do any work. We're not exposing anybody. But the bigger piece of this was mental health for all of us. It gave us something to focus on, to work on. So as my husband's business was getting slower and he didn't have as many appointments, he needed something to work on. And so the timing was spectacular. Did we need it? Not necessarily. It added to the value of our house for sure. Not that we're going anywhere. But you just really need to look at how you want to spend your money. So vacations are pretty much on hold across the board. Do you have a vacation fund? Okay, well, maybe this year you're not going anywhere. Maybe you're using that for a home improvement that you've been wanting to do. So you get something out of it without feeling like you just blew the money. Stimulus money is still coming in. Hopefully everybody has started to see it. If you have not, keep going out to the Get My Payment on irs.gov and check on it. It is updating weekly as far as what's available out there. My one recommendation is if you haven't filed your 2019 return and you think your 2019 returns income may be up from 2018, get the stimulus based on the 2018 money. Once you get the stimulus, then file your 2019 return. They're not going to come back and take that money. We're going to account for it on your 2020 return, but you're not going to have anything that actually is owed back in any way. They can owe you money. So if you were missing a dependent because the kid was born in 2019, they based the payment on 2018, you'll get that extra $500 on your 2020 return. But if the opposite happened, a kid fell off your list because they were over 17 in 19, but in 18 they qualified, they're going to account for that. They're not going to make you pay back that $500. So there's been a couple rumors out there and hey, there's more stimulus money coming. Don't count on it. I do not expect that the IRS is going to send out another round of money. Not by any means. I have heard nothing. I expect nothing. They're not done sending out the first round. They're not done. So they had said they could be sending out stimulus checks through October to get all the funds into everyone's hands. So just keep checking. If it says, hey, they don't have enough information, check the next week, check the next day, whatever. Don't check multiple times a day and don't call them. So their system is constantly updating. It's an antiquated system. So it takes them a while to actually get everything loaded and available for you to actually access the information. I was able to go in. Once it was finally available, it asks you for some information off of your 2018 or 2019 return. You were able to go in and put your direct deposit information in. And after that, it takes another week to 10 days probably before it actually transfers any money into your account. I have not heard yet on if anybody actually has received checks. So I don't know if there's been a round of checks that has gone out in the mail yet. So not a lot of Q&A, but a lot of things that have come up over the last week relating to the legislation. The biggest piece, I believe, to come is the EIDL loans processing all the way through. So the grant money came. Now, what does the EIDLs look like? I am recommending if you feel in a year you can make a loan payment on a low interest loan and you're projecting that that's not going to be a problem, then take the money because we do not know how long the recession is going to last. And that is something that could make or break you. It could help you get money in to pay your suppliers so that you could sell something. Things are starting to really slow. You're seeing things slow down as far as, well, I can't order a lot of inventory in because I don't have the cash because my sales are down. But if I don't have product to sell, then I can't make any revenue. And so it starts to be you're taking this to do this and it's getting tight. So when these funds are coming in, I think you need to look at it very carefully, how you want to spend that money. Are you going to, if it's PPP money, you're spending it on payroll, just almost 100%. It was calculated on payroll. You should be able to spend it on payroll. If it's EIDL money, it's not earmarked straight for payroll. You're going to want to really look at how you want to spend that money. Or to hang on to that money a little bit. If you got PPP funds now and then the EIDL trickles in, we're looking at probably another 3 to 6 weeks before people are seeing funding on those. So that's getting pretty close to when PPP money is going to be used up. So there's going to be opportunities there where you're going to need that cash. So don't say, hey, cancel my loan application because we just don't know. We don't really know where we're going to be 6 weeks from now. Like I said, it's going to be slow. It's going to be slow going. But don't get down about it. I mean, it's you got to be smart right now, but you have to be smart in any type of a downturn. It's just this one is kind of piled on with the fear of the illness itself. And I think you just really need to if you can, enjoy the time you have with your family. I know I am. This is kind of like, I call this bonus time since my daughter will be leaving for college in August. And before everything shut down, we were kind of passing each other in the night. She's working, she's going to school, I'm working, you're working out, and we were never home at the same time. And now I'm kind of enjoying this little bonus time before the big move in August for us. So, all right, one last check of any questions. Glad to see nobody has any. So thanks for watching. I will be doing a webinar on Friday, and it is going to focus on the actual details of calculating and keeping track of your PPP money, and having the specific legislation updates as well. So I hope you join me then. You can find me on Facebook anytime. Have a good day, everybody.